I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and it's part 2 of the Pantech Discover review. Can this $49 smartphone beat out the Galaxy S3, the Note 2, the One X Plus, the Droid DNA, and more on the nation's top carriers? We'll find out in the full review, but first, special thanks to our partners at Best Buy Mobile for giving us devices like this for use in our One Paw Bandit giveaway game. When you walk into Best Buy Mobile to get this device, you'll walk out working. They'll make sure your camera settings are good to go, your call settings are how you want them, so when you walk out the door, you can spend the weekend enjoying your device and not have to worry about setting it up at Best Buy Mobile. Let's take a look. It's part 2 of the Discover review, and it starts right now. In part 1, we talked about some customizations that come with Pantech's user interface, and we're going to jump off part 2 with that as well. So you can see, Pantech's user interface, it may not be as fleshed out as Sense UI or TouchWiz that comes with HTC or Samsung devices, but there are some unique features I really like on their user interface, and given how young and, comparatively speaking, less mature it is, I'm really impressed with some of these features. One of those is the recent applications area where you've got shortcuts to music, notepad, and video. So all I have to do is click on notepad, and it brings up a notepad in kind of a multitasking form here. So I can input text, just like that, and then when I want to get rid of it, I can save it, I can add a new one, or I can minimize it or maximize it. So it's bringing some sort of multitasking to the table here, and I should be able to move back and forth, like you see there, with my note right there on the front of the display. So I can continue to do stuff in the background and then get rid of it when I'm done. I like the music shortcuts as well. So really some creative, well thought out things on this device, and keeping in mind, and we talked about this in part 1, but keeping in mind that this is $50, really not a bad deal all around. Continuing on in the customizations, let's take a look at some of the contacts areas, and you can really see some heavy color and just overall theming here with Pantech's UI. So you can see contact stuff here. Here's my demo number for this device, and I've got stuff like, we'll go into Alexa Stevenson, for example, and take a look. President of fake company, I can scroll over and see my call log. I can see messages. I sent her a text message earlier this morning, an email, and scroll back and forth. So much like HTC, how much I praise them for their personal information management, Pantech's got this as well, and they've got it again for $49.99. So she's a favorite contact here. If I had a picture, it would show up right here, and it shows which Google account it's under, along with the phone number, the email address, which contact group it's in, and some notes about Alexa Stevenson, as well as her title and her company area up there. So you got a bunch of different things here. Go to John Rogers, for example, just to show you a different contact. You can really see, apparently he's Big Papa, the quick brown fox. And I can scroll back and forth and see some shortcuts here, and I can see when I messaged him as well. So you got the call log and messaging. Big fan of that because I love to look back and see, hey, when did I email this person? When did I call them, without having to go into the phone area and do it from there. So favorites here, Alexa Stevenson. My phone area looks like this. We'll dial 611 just to show you the overall look and feel of Pantech's user interface. You can see if a picture were there, it would show up right there. Speaker, of course, mute, and then in button, and then shortcuts to the dial pad, and to add a call if you wanted to conference somebody in. Let's take a look at the camera here. 12.6 megapixel camera, 1080p HD video recording, and not to spoil it, it's not the best camera in the world by any means. Really impressed that they have 12.6 megapixels. It's going to be good from a selling perspective, but still, while the image is decent for a $50 camera, it's not the best in the world by any means. So we'll come down here and take a look at this I took earlier. I was just taking some notes about this device, and you can see when I zoom in, and I can swipe back and forth. As I showed in part 1, there's some motion things you can do, which makes it really annoying when you're actually trying to stay on one picture. But you can see here, when zoomed in, it's a little bit grainy, and that's not the best performance test by any means, but I can tell you that in comparison to other devices on the market, the Droid DNA, the One X Plus, these devices with the ImageSense chip, or Samsung's Galaxy S3 and Note 2, not to mention the iPhone 5, there are some image discrepancies here. So keep that in mind. But again, $49.99 is a decent camera. It's going to get you by just fine if imaging is not your primary concern. You're going to be more than happy with this device. So speaking of, let's go into camera. I'll show you kind of how it looks. You can see the options, mode, effects, settings. I can scroll down through here. I can change the resolution if I want to make those pictures larger or smaller, save some space. I've got best face as well, which is always a nice one. Change the resolution to 8 megapixels. And you know what, I can take pictures back and forth, and we can find the best face. If I'm taking a picture of my family or a group or whatever the case may be, I can select and save the picture from there. So again, these are features we see on these devices that are $199. But when you realize, again, and I keep trying to hammer this point home, when you realize that this device is $49, you're like, you know what, you get some of the nice features and you save some loot to boot. So say that 3 times fast. Save some loot to boot. Let me show you this as well. Let's go into gallery, and let's see what we've got here in terms of videos. I want to show you the 720p display here. And we'll turn the sound up as well so you can hear the stereo speakers. Stereo speakers on the left and right, really a nice sound quality. And again, keeping in mind, when I think about the price point of this device, I'm like, hey, this is not bad at all. The image looks really nice. London time lapse. And so you can see I've actually been right there. Very pretty. So you can see 720p, you know, again, really nice image quality. The stereo sound sounds fantastic. Let's jump in and do some quick speed tests as well. We'll go into quadrant standard and see how this performs on that, keeping in mind it's got a dual-core Snapdragon S4 CPU. Call quality overall has been pretty impressive. I took it to an AT&T, I wouldn't say dead spot, but an area where AT&T is known to be kind of shaky, just above my office in North Dallas, and I've been relatively impressed with the coverage. The earpiece volume is nice and loud. The thing that I'm running into, even with battery life, it's not too bad at all. It's a 2,100 milliamp hour battery. 4G LTE takes a little bit of a toll, but I'd find that for me, with my use cases, moderate use, what I would consider to be texting, browsing, emailing the web, downloading apps, I got about 13 hours, 12 to 13 hours with moderate use. Now, obviously, your usage is going to change. It's really kind of a subjective metric when you really look at it, because my use patterns aren't your use patterns, but still, I'd say you're going to be able to make it through the day with this device with moderate use. You get into heavy use, you may want that charger, but the good thing is it's a removable battery, so you can pull out the battery, and if you've got a spare, throw in a new battery that's fully charged and get right along with your workday. So that's a nice feature there. And like I said in previous unboxings and review part 1, I like the fact that it's got a physical percentage indicator up there, so I can constantly see exactly where the battery's at. 5,345 on quadrant standard. Not bad at all. And then with speed test, I'm going to tools. We're going to throw this over to megabits per second. We're going to agree, and it's got a Missouri server, but we'll see if it'll lock on after this test to Dallas. But you can see AT&T, they don't really give a download and an upload kind of window like Verizon does, but I found it obviously to be very impressive. AT&T is obviously very strong in the Dallas Metroplex. 16 megabits per second on the download. I've seen this as high as 35 megabits per second. Upload speed's about 10 megabits per second. Let's see what we've got here with servers. And my location settings should be turned on, so Nashville, Tennessee. Anyway, you can see speed test relatively impressive across the board with download and with upload. So if you're in an LTE market, this is going to be a decent device. And you can see my little social thing just popped up, which means I've got a new notification. So 10 mentioned tweets here. I can click on those, and I showed this off in part 1. It's a Pantech application. That's really sweet. Jersey Shore rock. When I grow up, I want to be, or when I grow, I want to be like Phone Dog Aaron. Really a humbling thing for some to see that on my display. Anyway, you can see there, really an impressive application all around. So you know what, when you look at this device, if this device were $200, it'd be a different story, because you've got really established players in the market, and obviously the price points drop every now and again, so Galaxy S3 may be cheaper, the Note 2 may be cheaper. This thing is a steal for the price point. $50, really some nice specs. I love this device. This is a device I would carry on a regular basis myself. I would carry this in my pocket. I mean, the specs are nice, and yeah, you know what, the one downside is you may not get Android 4.1. Pantech was pretty open and said that this thing was going to get updated at some point. This is a new thing for Pantech. They're not used to making high-end devices, so they're not used to the demand that comes with making a high-end device and updating it to the latest version of Android, hearing those kind of user complaints, if you will. It's a new thing for them, so I hope to see this upgraded to Jelly Bean at some point. That said, if you look at their historical track record, and not to say that that's really an indicator because they've never really done a high-end device, but when you look at their historical track record, they don't really have a decent track history of updating. So you may or may not get Jelly Bean on this device. They say it's going to get it, but it may take some time. So that's the only caveat I'll give you. If you really want that latest version of Android, it may be an issue. Otherwise, this is an incredibly fast, well-built device with great specs, stereo speakers, HD display, a decent camera, a nice dual-core processor, a later version of Android, not the latest version by any means. At least it's not gingerbread, right? Right. 4G LTE, some decent AT&T applications, and it's $49. Would I recommend it? Absolutely, I would. Keep it locked on PhoneDog.com for continuing coverage of the Pantech Discover. We got some dogfights planned next week with this device, so stay tuned for that. Hit me up on Twitter as well, PhoneDog_Aaron. Let me know what you think about this device. If you bought it, I'd love to hear from you. What you think about the build quality, the design, the apps, the overall look and feel and use case with this device. Let me know, PhoneDog_Aaron, and on Facebook at Facebook.com/PhoneDog. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great weekend, and as always, we'll see you next time.